Figured I'd give it a couple of minutes for people to come in. All right, so we're about ready to start here. I feel like everybody else will get here for the good stuff while I sit here and go over boring stuff like what the title of the presentation is and who am I and who do I work for. So welcome, you're here at the right spot, composing a Drupal 7 site. I'm sure all of you are pretty excited about it. I know I was whenever we first started doing it. And I'd love to share with you exactly what we've been doing. Unfortunately, this is the only slide I came up with, so no, I've got some stuff for you. Don't worry about it. If any of y'all are wondering who I am, my name's Alan Chappelle. I go online by the alias General Redneck. You probably see me around. Now that we actually have pictures out there, actually, that's not a very good picture. Kind of grimacing there. I'll smile for you now. Yeah. Take a picture of that and stick it up there. No, I've been doing Drupal stuff for quite a while. Like, definitely been a member for a while. I was a lurker for a little while. PHP has been my livelihood even before I got out of college. Been a professional, doing it professionally for several years since 2007. And I pretty much specialize in QA and DevOps. Selenium testing, automated testing, that's things that I enjoy doing, love doing. I love to talk, so you might get an earful today. I speak at camps all over the place, user groups, especially around the Dallas area. Oh, by the way, yes, I am from Dallas, Texas, born and raised. Maybe a little bit of accident that you hear here. And I'm also a module maintainer. I've got a couple of them. My most used one is Vue's Natural Sort. Kind of lets you sort things like book titles and that kind of thing. I work for a glorious company named Promet Source. We do quite a bit of stuff. DevOps is our strength place. What we do really well. We have a really strong support program. I like to think that we're one of the leaders here in Chicago for DevOpsy stuff. I really think that our work with Composer and with some of our continuous integration stuff is definitely forefront in the Drupal community. And I like to promote that, and I like to say that we do that. So come to us whenever you need your CI done. All right. The big question is, don't we already have an app for building sites? Well, yeah, we do. It's called Just Make. It's got, let me see. But it's very Drupal specific. It's something that the Drupal community has built up for just our Drupal needs. Now, granted, Just Make has been around since before Composer has. I'll throw that out there now. So it served a purpose, or it does serve a purpose now same as it did back then. But the rest of the world, they use Composer. And I say the rest of the world, the rest of the PHP world does. But what's so wrong about Just Make? There's a couple little nitpicky things. Several people have made blanket statements about Drush. That is frail. Now there are some documented errors out there that you will see, and also the solutions at a link here that I've got on my screen. Making is not made for rebuilding, it's made for making a site. Now there are ways to get around the whole rebuild issue where you have Citus, which, modifies the way Drush Make works. It's kind of a wrapper to help you rebuild sites and whenever I say rebuild, I mean you cannot replace core with an updated version of core with Make. It will not allow you. Also, Drush Rebuild is another solution very much like Citus that does very similar thing. Make is also not a dependency manager. Have you ever tried to use Make to download, let's say, views? The very first error you're going to get is CTools is a dependency. So therefore, you'd have to go download CTools separately or make a separate line for it. It doesn't download the tree for you. What it does right. It's a great overview for your project so that you can see the entire list of contributed modules. And it does this in a very abbreviated, very nice way. You can see it on the spot. It supports patching right out of the box. Since Drupal standard for distributing changes is through patch files, this is a very big deal. It also supports non-Drupal code, Git, SVN, Mercurial, and also through HTTP using the Git command. A lot of these things are getting better as well. Every day, if you've ever downloaded the 7.0 branch of Drush, you'll notice that they're even using YAML files now. They're doing a lot of things that are making Drush Make and Drush better. Now, Krell, he came up with a good statement one time. Let's get out the island. Get involved in wider PHP community, both to learn from it and to share with it. We need to quit being that hermit. We need to make this community. That's one of the reasons why we're doing Symphony, right? It's because we need a bigger talent pool. We have the Drupal specific pool, which it's a different way of life. Building a Drupal site is a different way of life. We would love to be able to pull from the talent that is the PHP community. Well, what does Composer do? So Composer is a project dependency manager. It's not a package manager. It deals a lot with packages, but it manages the dependency of those packages. So you can literally take one package, download it. It knows that this package requires these 3 packages. In what version, it'll go download those, and vice versa through an entire tree. It's also inspired by Bundler, and I did a total typo right there. No, NPM is what that's supposed to be. I don't know if you've ever used NPM for Node.js or not, but they act very much the same. It's cross-platform, and all you need is PHP 5.3.2 on your machine. This is Windows, Linux, Mac, and optionally you can use Git, SVN, or Mercurial as dependencies. Most dependencies are going to require you to have Git or at least curl on your machine so that you can download a zip file for whatever package you are downloading. It was released in 2011. Drush Make was, 2009? Something like that. So that's where I was talking about. It was well before Composer came out. What does it do? Obviously, it manages dependent libraries. It handles cascading dependencies like it was, and declarative dependencies. You can install and update dependencies, and you can auto-load dependencies. So auto-loading is something that Drupal has to do on its own. It doesn't allow you to easily allow other applications to use its auto-loading capability. With that said, I mean, why should it, right? You're not going to use Drupal for some other application, but at the same time, it doesn't make it easy for you to use your own autoloader without doing some kind of tricky hack like throwing it into the settings file or something. Where do the packages come from? So we've been talking about Composer. It has packages. Where do they come from? They come from Packagist, or I should say the compiled list of packages come from Packagist. You can get, technically, each individual package are mostly hosted on GitHub. All this does is it says, okay, here's a list of GitHub repositories or Git repositories or SVN repositories that have a composer.json file, and they have registered here. Okay, let's let you download that by name and version, for that matter. There's over 40,000 of them. It contains almost every library you can think of, from Guzzle to pretty much everything in Pair. Sitting here trying to think of the hat. I mean, it's pretty much the standard for downloading stuff these days. It's for PHP anyway. And by the way, go sign up for an account. Get your libraries up there, because it'll make it so much easier and much more widely available to everybody. It's free. So I really wanted to kind of go down this road. Let's do a little bit of what I would call retro style programming for me, because I've been doing Composer for so long. And let's use Make. So here's a Makefile. It's pretty standard. It's really small. You have yourself views, CTools, because CTools is a dependency of views. I decided to go for admin menu 3.0-RC5 because I wanted to pin it at that version, specifically because I've got a patch down here on it. Let me see. Yeah, right here. And I wanted to deal with the WYSIWYG module. Well, WYSIWYG module doesn't let you use the latest version of CK editor. So I'm using the dev version and then downloading CK editor right here. That's what the library section there. Does everybody understand kind of like what? Have y'all dealt with this format before? Dealt with Make at all? Got some thumbs ups over there. Okay, so that's pretty much the gist of it. So I'll go over here, exit out my presentation, and let's I have this all made up. Now there's a couple of things I want to also note. I have also a site local.make. In my personal experience, when I do local development, I want some things on there like the Vel themer, mail log, that kind of stuff. So I can show you what that looks like. You can see that here. And it's pretty much the thing that the difference, the really big one here is, using SVN. I had to download simple HTML DOM so that the latest version, because the latest version of simple HTML DOM doesn't work, and you need it as a requirement for the Vel themer. So this is just showing you kind of like all the blanket features of Make. It's written, and it comes up in a really simple way. So I can say, so I want to install my site. So I'll come over here and I'll say drush make, and I want to make site.make, and I'm going to put in www. Of course, it's downloading. I've already used this before, so one of the improvements that they put in not too long ago was caching. It does cache the downloads that it makes now. The modules are stored in your .drush folder, so you don't have to re-download those every time. So I've downloaded all these modules. I've got a site kind of going. I can do, now I want to put my development stuff in there, so I say drush make site local make. So this is, let me see. I see what I did wrong. Fail. And that was another fail. I want to put it in www. Well, so this is where we're talking about the rebuild stuff. I can't put anything in www because www already exists. And that's to prevent you, it's kind of a feature and an annoyance. It's to prevent you from doing the unspeakable, which is removing everything from your site. It would be sad. So what we have to do is just this whole little bit right here, because we know we've updated some modules. I've also got my developer modules here, so that downloads. Okay, now I have drush make is done. It's done its deal. Now I need to go into my virtual machine where I'm hosting this thing. Let me see. And let's do a install. Now I've got okay, I know what I need to do now. Let's see, I want to make sure that I have my settings file. So we'll copy that over. Got that. Now I do my install. Now, this is a really quick install script. Basically, it drops the database, reinstalls the site, enables a few modules. That's about as basic as you can get. And so this is the process I'd go through for every site. Now the difference is if I wanted to go and update a module or update core. Let's say I want to update core. So I'd come over here. I'd then go edit my Makefile. Edit anyway, and because for some reason I really don't like this new version, I could go over here and say the project is Drupal and that the version of core is was it 7.34 or something of that nature. Now I know that downgrading isn't theoretically possible very easily with Drupal. This is mostly to give you an idea of what you have to go through to be able to do an update of core. So I want my version here, so it would be 7.34. I believe that's how we make that work. Let me see. So I go over here, do my drush make again. What's that?
Lost.
Oh, I was like, if someone's correcting me, that's a good thing. So then we say the same thing I did earlier, which was, if I tried to do this again, obviously, it'll break just like it did earlier. Let's see. www exists. So what does that mean? I have to go copy my files directory out, go update my, delete the www folder, update my core, put everything back. That takes a little bit of doing, so I'm not going to go through that. I'm going to skip to the good stuff right now, but I was wanting to show you that, I mean, it's not that I don't have a working site here. I just did what it was supposed to do. You know, this is a workflow, and if you've got this workflow, good for you. I mean, that's wonderful. It's better than having to manually copy files over all the time. However, there's something that I feel is better, and that is deleting my whole presentation. Yeah. I feel that it's with Composer. You see this right here. I know it's small, but first off, your first thought would probably be something of that nature. Maybe even that. You gotta love that one. And it's all the things. There's a couple of pieces that I want to show you when we get into this. And I'll show you the different pieces in code just in a second. But what I'm going to be using is literally Drupal Packagist. This is the URL for it. It's went up a couple of months ago. Before that, we were using a Packagist that didn't auto update, that was built by Will Milton, one of our former employees at ProMac. And then we have Drupal's libraries plugin, which was something I built because I feel like there's an alternative to this, and that is to use the Composer installers plugin. It allows you, and that one allows you to install any package anywhere. My thought is I want to control a little bit where things are going. So I built a plugin that's just strictly libraries, where you can put them strictly in the libraries folder. Drupal specific. And then Drupal Tangler. Drupal Tangler is also another alternative because in Composer you cannot store files into the directory of another dependency. So for instance, the way Drupal is designed, we have core in the root directory, and you have sites, and you have all modules. And so I would literally have to store my other dependencies into sites all modules, which is I want to download core as a package, as a dependency of my project, so that it doesn't quite work out because Composer will yell at you. So we have a project called Tangler, which the purpose of the project is to literally take core, copy it out into the www directory like you would normally have every time that you do a Composer update or install. That way it always stays up to date with whatever's in your vendor folder. And then we take all your contrib modules that you download, and we literally create symlinks to them in the contrib folder in the all modules folder, sites all modules folder. That's the extent of Tangler, and it gives you it gives you a project that looks like this. You have your composer.json file, you have a modules folder, and this is in GitHub or something, your version control of choice. You have a modules folder where you have all your custom modules, and then you have any other build scripts or anything else you'll need. And that is your entire project. You don't have all these contributed modules in your Git history. You don't have Drupal core in your Git history. You literally have your custom modules and your composer.json, and that is your entire project. It's fairly simple. So in fact, if you were to kind of look at my example over here, this is what I have. This is my project. I have a Vagrant file. I have a build folder which stores my build scripts, which is install.sh. I have a CNF folder where I store my configurations. In this case, it's the configurations for my settings that I want my site to use. And that's part of the README. I tell you in the README, make sure you have a config.yaml over here in the CNF folder so that you can update your database passwords and whatnot. But you won't necessarily store the YAML file within your Git repo. Now I have a composer.json. Now to kind of get to the point, which I'm sure y'all are all waiting for me to do, there's we have the composer.json. Let me actually get it over here in something that's a little more color coded. And let me do just a little cleanup here. Let's see, layout single, composer.json, and let's make this big. So I've created a new project. Hell, I've even named the project. That's something that allows me to actually, if I wanted to distribute this project, I could go stick it up on Packagist right now. Someone else could download it as a dependency to their project by calling this name right here and stick it in their composer.json. I'll show you that here in a second. The next big piece of this, so I told you earlier that packagist.org is the default package distributor for Composer. Well, we have a new one, which is the Drupal Composer Packagist. This has every single module, theme, project on D.O and their dependencies for the main module. So, for instance, like Views is looking for CTools, and views.info, CTools is going to be required.
How does it stay updated?
It stays updated by basically looking at the RSS feeds for the projects pages, and whenever the projects page updates a release, then a new package releases is generated. So it does this pretty much, I think it's like once an hour or so it stays fairly up to date. So with that said, and it's also really, it's really fast at that point because you're literally only looking for updates at that point. Heck, I think for a while there, trying to remember what his name is, guy that runs it, he was running on a Linode. So that's pretty much that's how small it can be. Of course, the very first time he ever told it to go through all the RSS feeds, like Will, my coworker Will, it took 8 processes on Amazon and about 16 hours to troll through all the RSS. But after that, it's just a simple update. See what's different. The parts that we need to really focus on here is this part down here. Required. Now, I've got a couple of extra things in here, and I'll actually show you the comparison here in a second. I have the library installer, like I was telling you about. I have Tangler, like I was telling you about. And then I have a couple of extra things like setting compile, because that helps me build my settings file, so I don't have to do it manually myself. And then I have WYSIWYG views and CK editor, which is something I'm going to need for WYSIWYG. Notice I didn't have to do C tools, and notice I'm determining version. There's syntax for the version. You can actually pin them if you want to. Much like in Make, you can say get the newest version or get this specific version. I can actually say in Composer though, only get the 7.2s, or only get the 0.1s, or only get, to satisfy it, only get between 1.1 and 2.2. There's that capability with Composer. Also, an added advantage. So on my presentation slide, I only showed you on the Makefile the one Makefile. This has the advantage of having both the development side and the production side in the same file. The difference is when you install, you do a different flag. You can say no dev or dev as a flag when you do a Composer install. And it'll get these packages or leave them out. And then the rest of this is kind of gravy. That was the meat. Let me see what we've got going here. Oh, one of the main things that Drupal wants us to do, patches. We have that ability here too. Now, Drupal's not the only community that uses patches. There's places out there like people who design webcam interfaces and stuff that give you firmware packages and whatnot. You can use this, and they actually run off of PHP, some of them do. You could use this plugin in any project you wanted to, and you could install packages. And I'll show you how to do that here in a little bit. Let me get out and show you. So you see all this. Let me show you about patches right quick. So there's a couple of things I want to show you actually. So all this stuff that I said is not as important. Let's talk about this right quick. Simple HTML DOM. I wanted to. It doesn't have an entry in Packagist. So for all your items that aren't in a Packagist, they don't supply you with this information, so you have to create it yourself. So in this case, I said I want simple HTML DOM. I download it and I want trunk at 210 because that's a very specific version that works for it's 1.2 I believe, or on the Vel Themer. And then I actually tell it which one to auto load so that I can do that. Then patches. This is kind of interesting the way this was designed. I can literally say, okay, for this version, apply these patches for this package. Okay, so I want for my Drupal admin, whenever I download that package, apply that patch. So the syntax is a little different. Also, the way they implemented it, you have to have a package, another package that wraps all your patches, because it'd be like you can't squeeze a version in between two versions very easily, if that makes sense. So you'll have to have a package which installs its own code. And in this case, a patch really installs code on top of another piece of code. And that's the explanation for it. But as you can see, it is possible. That's pretty close to it. You notice I required that the patches be installed here. And then my library settings are down here. So I said, this package goes in CK editor. This package goes in simple HTML DOM. And the reason I did it like that was because if you get some packages like jQuery cycle, the package name doesn't necessarily match up with what your modules are expecting to be in the libraries folder. And that's why you're required to both put a name and a package. And then one last thing, we tell Tangler with this command and this command on update and install, we want you to go in there and reorganize our stuff for us. So pretty much a lot of this is boilerplate. You could copy and paste in from project to project. You don't have to, and I'll show you about that here in a little bit. This other little bit is a command I want to run after every install, which is do my settings. You could literally say here, run my install bash script if you wanted to, after each time you do a Composer install. So with that said, that's kind of going to this whole bit right here. Now I let it do its thing. It also caches stuff, except for whenever it's getting from a Git repository. Whenever you're looking for something like a specific branch, you have to go through and do a check to make sure that you've got the latest. As you can see, it's cloning right there. Also, it's got to hit up and find the changes on the packages, which sometimes can be a little lofty, but once it caches that, it goes really fast. Notice there's a couple of other things that it had to download here, particularly for Composer and some of our plugins, like some of the Symfony components. So you'll see these, but you also see things like simple HTML DOM, themer, etc. So now, down here at the bottom, you see where it applied the patch. Now I could go show you that patch was applied if you want me to. That's up to you. With that said, I now go over here, run my install script like I did on the other one. It does same thing. Drops the database, and then does a site install. And whenever it's done, I can come over here and do a go to compose.dev, and I have a site. Now, the difference here is that instead of using the Drupal standard way of doing things, I have now applied a PHP Community standard way of doing things, which makes it more maintainable with a bigger audience, and it allows us to do contributions back to that community as well. Trying to remember how long it was I was supposed to be going. Got about 15 minutes. Gotcha. All right. Oops. Hey, look, there's the one from yesterday. So now, in a nutshell, we have Composer can do what JustMake can do. You literally saw that. Now it had a little help, and it enables more people to contribute. Here's a couple of goodies. You can literally clone any Composer project out there and make it the template for your project. One we use at work all the time is Promet Drupal 7 framework, and then we give it a project name. What that does, that literally takes every everything out of Git repo, stores it in its own non-working tree folder, and then you can go to town creating your own project. This is the composer.json and everything. So like I was saying, you could copy and paste this stuff. Just use the composer and init or composer create project, create you a new project from it. You have a baseline that way. Another thing that you can do, pretty much get any PHP library out there. Hell, even Drush uses Composer. I mean, if you go to their install page, well, they tell you, download Composer, install Drush. So that is, they're using the standard. Why can't Drupal? PHP unit, all your testing stuff pretty much comes with Composer. So what about Drush? Drush is going to be around. All we want to do is limit its scope a little bit. Drush Make it's done what it needs to do. I feel that Composer going forward is going to be widely used. Heck, Drupal 8, you can already use Composer to do that kind of stuff. In fact, if you want to, hook up to the Packagist, the Drupal Packagist. Start downloading your Drupal 8 modules from there. It's all up there. It's just waiting for you to put in the requires. And they'll obviously make and download probably no longer needed. If you want some patterns similar to what I've proposed, Casper has some. In fact, he's been a really big player in the Composer push. I suggest you look at his presentations. They deal a lot with using installers and that kind of thing. If you're more interested in being able to just fool around with where you put items. Obviously, Composer is not the easiest hurdle to get over when you're talking about syntax. Particularly, version control, like what your dependencies are. Find the syntax. Also, getting your own custom packages, like for instance, getting your stuff out of GitHub onto there without going through Packagist. You have to do a little small blurb that defines what your project is. Sandbox modules are the same way, and I can show you something that's similar to that right here. So if you notice for CK, let me see. I thought I had on CK editor. Never mind. Take that back. I could show you that on a project I've been doing, but literally it's something similar to this. You'd have yourself a name, your version, where to get it from. This case is just using SVN. You put get there instead, and your revision. And your revision can be a branch, it can be a tag, it can be a commit, a specific one. It's up to you. And lastly, explore the packages and all their dependencies. As you can see, it's all right here. And we've got everything from D8 and code. Apparently Coder's pretty popular these days. Go figure. Earlier today, CTools and views. This shows you CTools, views, features. This is just downloaded from packages, from this packages, their popularity. Currently, CTools and views, the downloads from it outnumber Drupal. Just saying. So you can go check that out. Now, all I'm going to ask you to do is stare at my lovely mug up there. The questions part was just a suggestion. So, yes, sir.
I got a couple questions. First is probably very simple. We have some Drupal modules and different themes that are not on Drupal.org. I assume that that Composer is going to let us include those in our projects. It doesn't have to be on Drupal altogether, right?
Hey Andy, can I show them a Composer from one of our projects?
Sure.
Okay. It's going to be P2PI. So we have, so Composer has a workflow that instead of patching, the standard workflow is to create a fork, apply your patch, put that fork somewhere, and then access it via the packages, override the package literally. So to kind of go to your point, here's one. So we have a module, Flex Slider. We've literally had to, let me see, this one was a little bit different. Let me see if I can find that one. Find one that we like, bulk, there it is, bulk file nodes, there's one. So bulk file nodes, it's already a package on the packages, but we applied a patch, did a lot of custom work, in fact, even. So we created this package, gave it some information. Now, this is a lot of information to give. Basically, we copy and pasted from the packages, the definition, and we changed a couple things.
Okay.
But in general, all you need is a name, which is, so you say package, the type is a package. This is, and let me kind of step back for a second. This is in your repository section, okay? This is where you define your packages. So we defined it as a package, we gave it a package wrapper, then we called it bulk file nodes. We went ahead and gave it the description, said what the version was going to be. In this case, we're saying the version is dev 7x1.x-patched. Down here, we say that version is linked up to this reference. That reference is the name of the branch. So it's fairly, the source part of it is literally, you have to tell it where it's from. And it can be a lot simpler. An example of that would be, there's date, fill panel panes, calendar. Let me see. So something like I showed you earlier with simple HTML DOM, if it lives in a Git repository, you can literally, or a SVN repository, you can literally just, all you need is where the name, the version, where to find it, and that will be enough to be able to get it there onto your project. Does that make sense?
My other question has to do with what sometimes we call the sub-distro problem. For example, where we want to build something that's based on the distribution of Drupal, but with some additional code or maybe patches to the distro, other modifications. And we want to track the original distro and keep up with changes that happen.
Yeah.
With it, but well,
and patch it also.
Modifications on top of that. And is there a?
I've never done that before. With that said, it is possible to download a distribution using Composer. The thing that you'd have to deal with is the type. There's a type to every package. So for instance, if I come over here and I do Composer show Drupal. And it's got to go. It basically is going to the internet, or it's going to Packagist, and it's pulling some information about all the different versions and stuff on this package. So you notice that these are all the available versions of the package Drupal. If you change the type, which you can see right here on your package, to be Drupal core, and you use something like Tangler, then it'll treat it the same by making a copy of it and putting it over into your www folder. So literally what you do is you'd say, okay, go download this from GitHub or wherever they're hosting it. Make the type of it is Drupal core, and then add your patches using the patches plugin that I've got on here, which I know it's not exactly straightforward. And in the hour we've got, it's been I couldn't just say I can show you, here you go, but I can't. It's not been enough to say, okay, this is how you do it. But you would do that. It'd apply to patches, make the copy of it over, and then you should be good to go. I know that's kind of probably a vague answer without actually showing you, but it should be possible. That's what I'm getting at.
That's good enough for now.
Yeah. We might even, that might be something we write a blog post about, It's an intriguing idea. Of course, we don't do a lot with distributions generally at ProMet Source. Anything else? Yes, sir.
I think you were talking about this before the session, but can you explain the difference between something like Composer and something like Bower, which is also like a dependency manager?
Okay, so generally the difference is the different languages that they support. So in this case, Composer is for PHP specifically. NPM is for Node.js, and then like Bundler is for Ruby, and the packages are generally based around those languages. So for instance, I have some packages that are JavaScript enabled, so or JavaScript. They're kind of like the sideline. We add them as packages because some of our web features require them, but they're not necessarily going to be up on the packages because they're not PHP libraries. So the dependency managers are obviously, they all deal with allowing you to say, I want this version to this version, and I want all of the dependencies that will work with that version to that version. So it's not always perfect because men and women like you and I go out there and we decide which versions works with what version, but it's pretty dang close and you have to do a lot less work. Does that make sense? Bower I've not worked with specifically, so that's one of the things there. I think you had a question next. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'd assume after you first run your Composer install, adding the code for another contrib module would just be adding another line to composer.json and running Composer install again?
Not Composer install. You'd have to do a Composer update, and that is something I didn't add in this presentation, but I'll get to it quickly. Basically, you have a composer.lock file. The lock file allows you to send your Composer settings to every single other environment, but have that exact same setup. So, for instance, if you downloaded Drupal 7.3.4, and when you did your Composer install the very first time, you get a .lock file. If you committed that and somebody else pulled down that commit and did a Composer install, they would also get 7.3.4 instead of 7.3.5, because it literally look at it and go, oh, we want that exact same setup that was done at the last update. And that is one way that you can push to production and still do your Composer install and not be freaked out because, oh, they did a security update and everything broke. So does that kind of make sense?
Yeah.
So it's literally, like you said, one line. I add a new module to my Composer, my Composer.json. It'll download that and any dependencies that it needs. Yes, sir.
Are they thinking of, like with the D8 modules, being the maintainer being able to put what versions don't work with what and having you work with those two?
You know, you can already do that actually.
Do they?
Your info file, you can specify versions in which someone has to have to maintain compatibility. In fact, when the Composer package parser was built for Drupal packages, because generally what happens in normal Composer workflow is the person that makes the repository also puts a Composer.json up there specifying all the stuff. We had to go through, look through every project, create that for them so that you could do this easily. And one of the problems we ran into was, yeah, you have the ability to say, this doesn't work with Drupal core 7. You have to have Drupal core 7.2 and above, or something of that nature. And that is possible now in your info files.
Drupal 8.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you can. For Drupal 7, you can do that too.
Okay.
Yeah. Not Drupal 6 though.
As long as it's maintained.
What's that?
I said as long as somebody's maintaining those, yeah.
Yeah, as long as someone's maintaining it. But you, just like with any other project. What's that?
You have dependencies of your modules on modules.
Exactly.
And you have to flag for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I believe that pretty much wraps us up. So I appreciate y'all listening to me yammer on for a little bit. And y'all have a good day.